I hope you're all well. So we're really excited to host this webinar. For those of you who have been attending and sort of joining us every single week, then I'm sure that you're sort of familiar with our voices. So today we're going to be talking about, we're actually going to be talking about different journeys that individuals who are currently studying dentistry have taken. So you're going to be hearing lots of different stories of different people, their backgrounds, their qualifications, the grades that they got, the A levels and the Gcses that they took, which universities they've chosen, which universities they got interviews for and offers for, and what they're studying, what year they're in, and why they chose that particular university. So it's going to be a really informative webinar with lots and lots of different backgrounds from different individuals. So I'm really excited to introduce the team today to share their individual experiences with them. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you are new to our webinars, then if I can kindly ask you to mute yourself, because we don't want any background noise. It just sort of spoils the presenter's flow. So just mute yourself. In addition to that, obviously, there's going to be quite a lot of information. So if you have got a pen and paper to hand or a note-taking app, then just make some notes on that. That'll be really useful. In addition to that, we also have a couple of QR codes on the screen as well. So if you have your phone at hand, you can open up your camera and scan that, or a QR code scanner to lead open into different URLs, which are really, really informative and are sort of some of our resources. We estimate that this will be about an hour. We've got a couple of speakers, and then we're also going to have questions as well. We have got the chat facility as well. So if you want to ask us anything, literally anything at all, please feel free to pop that into the chat box, and then we can answer the question as we're going along. And if we haven't covered it, then at the end we'll do a question and answer, live question and answer, where we'll cover all of the questions that you have. Obviously, if you are experiencing any problems, technical difficulties, for instance, you can't hear us, it's muffled, just let us know in the chat as well. So I think we've probably got a couple more people that are waiting to join us. In the meantime, if you guys have got any questions, please, you can use the chat facility to let us know. Yes, we always get this question, so I'm going to answer it now. Basically, we are recording the webinar, so we will be putting it onto our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is this I want to be a dentist. So if you would like to view this webinar and any other webinars that we've done in the past, then just subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we'll be uploading everything for free so that you guys can watch that back and replay it, and it's all online. So so if you're on YouTube, check us out. Fantastic. So I think what we'll do, it's 6 minutes past 7 now, so I am going to make a start to the webinar. So the topic of this webinar tonight is Hear It From Us, Successful Dentistry Students and Their Journey into Dental School. On the panel, we've got a wide range of individuals, ranging from undergraduate students to graduates, in addition to current dentistry offer holders, as well as individuals who have taken gap years, and some individuals who have experienced different ways of getting into dentistry, which we'll cover very shortly. The learning objectives from this particular webinar is to just give you an introduction of who we are, if you don't know, and then we're going to be talking about advice from an undergraduate, advice from a postgraduate, advice from an applicant who attained all 4 interviews, advice from a gap year student, and advice from a individual who actually was a dental nurse and is now a dentistry student. And then we're going to follow up with a live Q&A. Who we are a national team of dentistry students, dentistry offer holders, dentists, who are here to help dentistry applicants. Ultimately, we are here to support you at every stage during your application. Now, we have got our website coming out very, very soon. We have got a free work experience course on that website, which sort of gives you lots of information on the typical things that you may encounter during a clinical physical work experience observation period with a dentist. Now, that course is going live in July. So I know we're in July, but it's going probably towards mid to late July. That's going to be live. So if you want to be the first one to sort of sign up and be on that, then just take a picture of that QR code, and that will lead you to a sign-up form where you can just simply put your details in, and you'll get an email straight away when the course is ready, and you can have completely free access to all the modules on that. So it's a really great way to get a little bit more career insight into dentistry. In addition to that, we've got some discount packages which we're launching in July as well. These are basically services which we provide to help prospective dental applicants, dental students, shall I say, with their journey into dentistry, ranging from the basic package, which includes personal statement review and UCAS help, as well as a UCAT online mastery course and a full mock test, a unique mock test, to the most comprehensive package of ours, which is the UCAT and the BMAT, in addition to one-to-one tuition with our expert tutors for the UCAT or the BMAT. And in addition to that, we do offer 50% off for anyone who's eligible for our bursary. In addition to that, what I'm really, really excited to announce is that we actually have a computerized UCAT mock test, which is very, very similar to your full real test that you'll be sitting, which includes the full timer, the UCAT calculator, a scratch pad, the flag buttons, the review option, and a score, which will be included in these packages here under the UCAT online mock test. So you'll literally experience exactly what it's like to sit the UCAT mock test, the UCAT test on our website. So it's a fantastic package that we're offering, and it gives you almost a lifelike simulation of exactly what the test will be like, so you can prepare yourself in the way that you'd be sitting that test. Every week, we also generously offer a free book, and this week's winner is Kian X on Instagram. So the way to win this every week is to simply take a picture of the screen and tag us at I Want to Be a Dentist on Instagram, and then just share it with your story on Instagram, and we will choose one person at random. We really, really love doing this because we love giving our book out and seeing your engagement as well, which is fantastic. The book is coming out very, very soon. I know it says they're 50% off until end of June, but actually we're extending that a week or two just because we are just finalizing the last few bits. So literally you can still grab yourself a 50% off the book, which is fantastic. Right, so what you're all here for is to hear the experience and the stories of these individuals. So I want to introduce Fadila to talk about her experience in getting into Leeds Dental Institute.
So hi everyone, my name's Fadila. I'm currently a second year dental student at Leeds. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my background first of all. So originally I was born in Canada, but I moved to England when I was around 7 years old. And since then I've been living in Preston. And that's where I completed my Gcses. So I managed to get 11 Gcses altogether, all at A stars and A's. And then I went on to study A-levels in biology, chemistry and English literature at college. I also did maths up until AS level, but I dropped that because it just wasn't my cup of tea. And instead I decided to pick up an EPQ. And I completed my dissertation on how dentistry has evolved over time and how innovative advances impact the future of dentistry. So I found that really interesting and enjoyable, and it actually proved to be quite useful because it gave me quite a few talking points at university interviews. So in terms of interviews, I was actually fortunate to receive invites to all 4 of my choices. I applied to Queen Mary's University in London, Sheffield, Liverpool and Leeds. And then after my interviews, I received offers from all but Sheffield. And when applying, I'd actually left my 5th choice blank as well, because there was nothing else I could see myself doing, and I didn't want to just put another degree down for the sake of having a choice there. I figured my backup plan would kind of be to retake A-levels if needed, but I just didn't want to have a choice there for the sake of it. So yeah, onto my experiences. So as you guys probably know by now, universities all require usually at least around 2 weeks of work experience in a dental setting. So you might have attended our previous webinar on work experience, and I covered my experiences there in a little bit more detail. So like Carl said, you can check that out on YouTube. But basically the takeaway point I wanted to make was that work experience doesn't need to be limited to just like dentally related settings. As you can see from the list on the screen, I did so many things outside of dentistry related areas, some of which were things that were useful for manual dexterity as well. So what's important to remember is that every experience will teach you something, and these skills and qualities are built within you. So then you can then transfer them to dentistry. So dentists need so many different skills like communication, manual dexterity, team working, etc. So all of that can be developed from all your experiences. And some universities might test you on manual dexterity in the interview as well. So it might be a good idea to take up a hobby to practice that skill. So other examples of hobbies might be, origami, playing an instrument, knitting, drawing, that kind of thing. So talking about why I actually went into dentistry, for me, it wasn't always an obvious end goal. All I knew was I didn't want like a secluded office job. I'm quite a sociable person. I wanted to take up a role where I was like working with people, giving back to society, helping people. And that's why if you've looked at my work experience, you'll notice that I had so many different experiences, like working in a pharmacy, working at the GP. I wanted to really like consider and experience everything to know that what I was going into would suit me. And I like that with dentistry, you weren't just limited to seeing people that were unwell, like maybe you would at a GP. Everybody visits the dentist for a general checkup twice a year, or they should anyway. And because of that, the dentist is able to build a meaningful relationship with their patients. So for example, at my work experience, the dentist I did my work experience with, he was discussing like A-level exam stress with one of his patients during a checkup. And he was telling me really proudly, like he'd treated that same patient since she was like 3 years old. And I just found that really like heartwarming, being able to witness and like live through your patient's life experience, just something I found amazing. Another reason I chose to go into dentistry was my own orthodontic journey. So just feeling the impact and the difference, having a nice smile or a nicer smile can make to someone's self-confidence. And being in a position where I could make that change for somebody, it's just a really rewarding aspect for me. So yeah, that's why I decided on dentistry. And then once I decided on that, it was time to decide which of my 3 offers to my universities to firm. So right off the bat, Leeds stood out to me. It was the only university in the UK to offer an integrated master's program. So straight away that said to me, this is going to be good for career prospects after graduation. And then looking further into it, they also had 3D virtual reality simulators. And I think Leeds and Sheffield, to my knowledge anyway, are like the only 2 universities to have a haptic suite. And I know Sheffield's a little bit older, so yeah. And then the thing that stood out to me most was the fact that there was early clinical exposure. So you can get onto clinics like right away from year 1, and the learning style is really hands-on. We always find ourselves on like phantom head models, simmed on virtual reality simulators, and this was greatly suited to me because I'm a hands-on learner. And then further down the line, Leeds also offers the opportunity to be a part of an exchange program abroad. I think it's called an Erasmus scheme, or to complete an elective that we plan ourselves. So hopefully these are things that I'm going to experience in the years to come. So life at Leeds right now, as I mentioned, Leeds has a very hands-on learning style. So over the last 2 years, we've covered so much theory: pain management, the oral environment, theory of biomedical sciences, so much anatomy, and the list honestly goes on. There's so much theory to learn in the lecture theatre, but Leeds does their best to make it more hands-on and engaging. So, learning anatomy, for example, can be made easier from visiting cadavers, looking at cadavers, and doing prosections. And then biomedical sciences, for example, can be made more involving by hooking ourselves up to an ECG machine. So it kind of just comes to life in the clinical skill labs and the patient clinics. And then outside of, just dentistry education, there's so many societies and stuff to get involved with. So one of the societies I'm really passionate about is called Open Wide at Leeds. So the aim of that is to inspire and educate individuals from backgrounds that are underrepresented in dentistry. And we do that by, going out to visits at primary schools and secondary schools, holding workshops, mentoring dental applicants online. There are so many other kind of societies to get involved with. It doesn't have to be dental related. So you can be assured there's something for everybody. I'm moving on to some top tips to secure a place at dental school. So my first one would be to research as much as possible. Don't just apply to university because they're highly ranked on a league table. Sometimes that's to do with people's opinion. It can be skewed slightly. They change every year. I'd recommend to really, look into the course, the opportunities they'll provide throughout your degree, and then choose what's going to suit you best and enhance your learning. Second one is to not feel forced to just limit yourself to excelling academically. Obviously, this is important. You need the grades to get in, but pursue your hobbies. It's going to be great for your mental health, and universities love students who are well-rounded and multi-talented. Third one is to get as much work experience as possible. It'll really give you a feel of dentistry and help you solidify your decision, or maybe even do the opposite. The minimum requirement, like I said before, for most universities is 2 weeks in the GDP. The fourth one is to not just limit your work experience, as I said, to shadowing dentists in a GDP. So universities might like to see that you've picked up your transferable skills from things like a part-time job, fundraising, volunteering, that kind of thing. And it's usually a good idea to get experience in other healthcare settings that let you observe good, proper teamwork. The fifth one is to work on your personal statement as much as you can until you feel it's perfect. So remember, your first impressions are going to count. This is the first thing the unis are going to see that's specifically from you, and they're going to use this to decide whether or not to offer you an interview. So you need to make sure it's perfect for you. Sixth one is to practice and revise for your interviews, and be sure to really relay your passion for the subject to your interviewers. So sometimes it often happens that, you can get nervous, and though you know the subject topic so well, you kind of end up seeming a little bit robotic. So it's a good idea to try to build your confidence in the run-up to your interviews. So maybe practicing with a friend or a family member might help with this. And last of all, always have faith in yourself to make sure that you're appearing as confident as possible. Seventh one would be to try and attend open days. These give you a chance to explore the campus and the city, which might be your potential home for the next 5 years. So factor in what sorts of things there are to do outside of university as well when making your choices. You might have new experiences that you want to try, for example. Number 8 is to practice for the admissions test as much as you can. So whether it's the BMAT or UCAT that you decide to take, there's so many resources and courses like the ones we do at I Want to Be a Dentist, and that they can be used to boost your scores. So past papers for me were one of the best ways to prepare. And the admissions test scores are weighted differently between schools. So make sure you find out how they're used and apply wisely as well when you're narrowing down your choices. The 9th one would be to study really, really hard for exams. So universities use your A-level predicted grades and results, and the first way to filter through students are your grades. So of course, you need to have your experience, your volunteering, your hobbies, but don't forget that the academic factor is just as important. So don't compromise on this. And number 10, it might be advantageous to pick up a skill that improves manual dexterity. So obviously the nature of dentistry is that you're working in a focused area very intricately. So you need to be working on these skills. So like I said before, some examples that can improve this are origami, drawing and painting, sewing, knitting, anything that you can think of that requires hand-eye coordination. So yeah.
Okay, that was great. So the next person is Brenda Singh Shergill, who is going to be just casting some advice from his experience. And Binny has had a very interesting journey into dentistry, so I'm going to allow him to explain everything.
Cool, thanks for the introduction, Cal. Welcome everyone. So a bit about my background. So right now I'm a 5th-year dental student at Glasgow Dental University. If we go to the next slide, please, Cal. Perfect, thank you. There we go. So yes, I'm a 5th-year dental student at the University of Glasgow. I live in Staines in England. After A-levels, I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do, even during A-levels. I wasn't a young student that was set on doing dentistry. I pretty much just knew I like science, really enjoyed the different aspects of science, but I didn't know what I wanted to specialize into. So after A-levels, I sort of just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up deciding the best journey for me would be doing biomedical sciences. And I did this at Royal Holloway University, which was just around the corner from where I live. So I got to live at home, save lots of money, and go to uni to do biomedical sciences. It was through doing biomedical sciences that I realized that the different areas that biomed elaborates on and different experiences you get in it, I didn't really enjoy too much. So it was a good thing to do the degree, to realize I didn't like a lot of different aspects. That was such as like lab work. I realized when I was doing it, I'm not a very lab-based person. I'm very much more interactive. I like to communicate with people and go out quite a lot in that setting. So after I did biomedical sciences, uni fees went up. So I was there when uni fees were like £3,500 roughly a year, and then it jumped to 9,000. So for me, I knew that if I was going to do a degree as a postgraduate, I would then need to save money. So as a second degree, you don't get tuition fees in the same way. So you have to basically save up yourself or have funding from someone else or another organization. So for myself, I worked for 4 years as a territory manager, which meant I got to go to hospitals, GP surgeries, nurse bases, talk to like anyone from a nurse to a sort of more specialized nurse to specialists within hospitals. I got to see a range of patients from all different journeys and different areas of medicine. And it was through that I realized I love the interaction. I love knowing how things work within the body, but also just helping people and how much of a difference that makes. So obviously with that job, it was me training someone, helping someone else that then trained or helped the patient. So I was thinking of a way to be the person that helps them directly. So it was only after my 4th year of working that I actually decided, you know what, let's look at what I enjoy within the science sector. I know I don't want research. I've seen medics, I've seen nurses, seen all these different aspects. And as amazing as they are, this wasn't something that kept me engaged the whole time. So for me, I then started looking at different areas you can work in. And that's when I found out about dentistry. It was kind of a bit of a fluke the way I got my work experience, but I got it. And then it was only through doing that I realized how much I actually enjoy this, how interested I was, how many questions I asked the dentist, how they used to train me or teach me the stuff as they're doing it. So that made a world of difference, because then I got much more engaged and understood why procedures are the way they are and why you have to do certain things. And one of the main things for me was just patient management. So as a person doing work experience, you're not obviously allowed to do anything, but just going there, being able to talk to the patients, bring them in from the waiting room, all of that, just really basic stuff to me as a 17, 18-year-old the first time. And then as a 23-year-old, I was extremely excited to do all that stuff. And I was like, this is great. I just want to keep going. And that's sort of what spurred me into do dentistry. So if I go to the next slide. So I applied for university. Initially, once I decided this is what I want to do, I want to go for dentistry, I actually stopped working. I then decided that I'm going to do my UCAT, which was in a week from the date of me stopping my job. I had a week left to apply for it. So I applied, did some obviously work at home, then did my UCAT or UCAT now, finished that. I then decided that I need a lot more experience to get back into the sort of work lifestyle again, in terms of researching, learning again, because I haven't done that for 4 years basically. So for me, it was, okay, what exams can I do now just to get me in the swing of things? And at that time there was GAMSAT, I think it was called, or GradMed or whatever it is, but for medics. So I just went for it. I thought, why not? Let's just do it more for not to actually do medicine, but just to get used to revising, learning different subjects and doing all that stuff again. So I did that. Really enjoyed that exam, by the way. That went, and then you obviously do UCAS applications. Did all that with one of my friends who wanted to do medicine. So me and her worked together a lot, and it's really good to bounce ideas back and forth from my personal statement. Did all of that and applied for the universities. And it was out of University of Glasgow and another one, which is a post-grad entry. So I actually decided my split of my 4 choices was going to be 2 undergrad and 2 post-grad courses, and then see which of the 2 I get. Out of the 2 options, University of Glasgow, when I went there, I just felt was more friendly, the environment, the atmosphere, the MMI was a lot more fun. And I know that's a strange way to describe an interview. And I think when you go ahead and apply for dentistry, you have these interview stations. And a lot of people would never describe them as fun, but interesting or something, or maybe scary. Honestly, Glasgow was so much fun for me. I had a really good time, really enjoyed it. I had good communication rapport with the people that were interviewing me. So just leaving that place, I felt really enthused and really happy. Whereas with my postgrad entry, when I left the MMI stations, I felt okay, but I didn't feel as enthused. So University of Glasgow was the one that actually offered me my place. So I 100% took it at the time as well. And that was the reason why, really. Everything was just a lot more relaxed for it. And they were #1 for dentistry. So I know I would agree with Delia as well. Don't look at charts or league tables, because there's always some sort of bias in them somehow, depending on what they look at. But for me, they were #1 for dentistry. They've been it numerous years, and they're #1 again this year. So for me, it was really good. If we go to the next slide, sorry, Cal. Perfect. So a little bit of insight into what I did to lead up to my application. I didn't think I had any manual experience or manual dexterity experience. I played hockey and played it for years and years and years, like 10 plus years, really enjoyed it, but that's not really a finesse art in my opinion. So I was like, oh, I can't really use that for manual dexterity, that'd be transferable. That was my thinking at the time. I played Dol, which is like the Indian drums. Again, in my opinion, I was like, that's not really finesse art. So for me, I thought, okay, let me just take up something just as a backup, just in case they ask me any questions. So for me, it's cross-stitching and suturing practice. The suturing is basically stitches, so how to do stitches. Really, really interesting and really quick to learn, by the way, suturing, and very, very, very useful. So yeah, they're the 2 things that I started to learn and had some examples of, just in case I was asked that question. I wasn't, but just in case I had a backup. In terms of my work experience and the reason why I knew I wanted dentistry, like I mentioned before, I had 6 weeks in a dental practice, not too far from me. Really, really enjoyed my time there. Like I said, loved the interaction with patients, loved the actual dentists themselves. They taught me so much as I was treating patients, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also had 1 week in a max fac setting, which is like a specialist setting within a hospital. That was an eye-opener for me, and I found it really, really interesting to see the cases they have compared to what you see in a dental practice. And that difference was something I talked about in my interviews as well. Really enjoyed that. And that's where I actually got the suturing practice, not on a patient, but that's when I learned, all right, you can practice this stuff at home. So I brought a suturing kit and I'd practice on like banana peels or orange peels. Cheap and cheerful, and it works really, really well. In terms of career insight, the things that I learned, and I think the things that are really, really important in dentistry, and if you have these characteristics, it's good, because I think they're transferable, and that's what a dentist made up of, or some of the characteristics a dentist made up of. So teamwork, time management, communication, altruistic or altruism, stress and stress management. So obviously within dentistry, there's a lot of teamwork. Even though you're a dentist, you have a lot of different members of the dental team that you all have to integrate with really, really well. All to improve the patient journey. Time management, I think that's something that's been brought more to everyone's attention, how important that is. But how many patients you had in a day, how would you manage them if you had an emergency appointment, etc., etc. And then communication between everyone, including patients. With all of that comes a lot of stress. So with stress, I think with dentistry, that's a very fine art to learning when you're getting stressed and how to manage that stress in a safe way and in a positive way. Can we go to the next slide, please, Cal? Cool. So some top tips for me: research. Really research all the different universities. So a lot of these things, by the way, Fadila has said and others will say as well, but just to reiterate, research the universities, find out about them, find out about the environment, i.e. the surrounding areas, find out what the university is known for. And if you can, if you know anyone in there, ask them direct or try to contact the university and see if there's any way you can ask anyone. Practice early. So that is practice your Ucat, practice your BMAT if you're doing that. Really go to websites like these that train you. Like I Want to Study Dentistry. Really, really good. Like honestly, you learn so much from them. So they're the sort of things you want to be looking at to engage with early on. The earlier you do it, the better it is. There's no such thing as, I know some people might say, oh, revising too early is a bad thing, or practicing too. I don't believe it. Practice early. You're more confident later on that you know this. It becomes second nature. There's a motto we had when I was working. Failing to plan is planning to fail. That's a very polite way. There's also the 7 Ps. I'm not going to repeat them. You can research them later, but really planning is everything. Plan everything. You'll be fine for later. Do things you enjoy. And when in A levels and also throughout my career, and I've seen people's CVs, you see a lot of people have done something just to put it on their CV. It's not something they enjoy. It's not something they've done for a long time. It's just something to put down on a piece of paper. It comes across as well when people talk about it. Do things you enjoy, and those things that you enjoy put on your CV or put on your personal statement. And when people ask you questions, they'll see the passion you have for it because it comes out naturally. So really just do things you enjoy and are happy with. Personal statement, like I mentioned before, me and my friend were applying at the same time. She did medicine or applying for medicine. I applied for dentistry. And we both just kept sending our personal statements back and forth and just went through them again and again and again to finesse them. And I truly think that made a huge difference. So if you have anyone else that wants to apply for dentistry, or other people, or even people in dentistry, or through the websites like these, get them checked, get them finessed, get everything right, just so you're really, really happy with them before you send them off. Practice MMI stations. Practice it with people you're really nervous in front of. So if that is family, your best friends, girlfriend, boyfriends, teachers, whatever, just practice them, okay? Ask for a bit of their time, practice going through some stations, any questions, because if you're nervous around them and you become comfortable, when you are in an MMI station and the nerves are actually a little bit higher than normal, you'll be more relaxed. Things will come out naturally. You won't be nervous, or you won't be as nervous, and that makes a huge difference as well. Phone universities. So this is what I did once I got the Ucat results. I phoned the universities that I sort of wanted to go to, and I asked them, look, these are my grades from my degree. These are my grades from GCSEs, A levels, my degree, and my Ucat. If this was last year, where the average was whatever it was in university, would I have got an interview or not? What are the chances? That's something that's fine to ask. They give you a rough idea. Yeah, you would have got an interview had it been last year, or your chance would have been high or low. That then gave me a good indication whether I should put them as one of my 4 options. Bear in mind, 2 were undergrad and 2 were postgrad, so I didn't have a full 4 for either, if that makes sense. But I had to really put something down that I had a high chance of getting into. Have a contingency plan. So I know if you apply for dentistry, your heart's set on it, everything, you really, really your heart's set on it, you really want to go for it. Just have a plan just in case. It's never a bad thing to have a backup plan, whether that is another degree, whether that's a gap year or something else in between. Absolutely fine. Just have it there just in case. Okay. Go to the open day if it's possible, and you can go to open day if it's nearby, or you can have the day off. Go to it. You'll get shown around by a student from the area, from potentially that subject you want to study from. You can then ask them any question you want because they're studying dentistry in the university. So you can ask them any questions, and that's a really, really good way of actually understanding how the university works, or what they think of the dental school, or anything about the training that you might have a question with. Hence speak to current students as well. I was a bit cheeky. I went on Facebook and just messaged people. I had no idea who they were. That was just in the universities. And I was like, look, I want to apply. This is the MMIs. Do you have any advice? Or do you have any advice about your dental school? Any questions that I just put them out there. And take a break. Don't go 100% all the time because you don't want to fatigue early. Practice early, take it in chunks, understand things, but just relax through the process as much as you can. Make sure you have those breaks. mental health is a massive thing, and the importance of which has grown over the last last year especially. So just make sure you have that break. I think that is it for me, Cal. If anyone has any questions, please put them down. I'll be happy to answer them at the end or whenever.
Thank you. That was great. So we do have a couple of questions actually before we introduce Adityo. What I'm going to do is just read a couple of them out so that the ones that we've got, we can cover them. So I'm just going to read that. How long would you recommend revising for the Ucat test? I know that we've had a couple of answers there. And does it need to be revised every day? So obviously I'll open the mic up to anyone who wants to answer that from our team.
I'd say revision is something that's very subjective. So I think I said this in a previous webinar as well, like all of you guys have been through so much education, and I think by now you know how you work. So just work how you work best. So personally for me, I'm quite last minute. So 2 to 3 weeks for a few hours of a day, it was fine for me. And as long as you're seeing the progress and you're happy with, you know, the way that you're doing your results, then don't feel pressured to do a certain amount. I think generally people say, you know, 1 to 2 months is what you should revise, but like I said, subjective. So some people feel comfortable if they revise for longer. I know I have a few friends who revised for maybe 6 to 7 months earlier, which sounds crazy to me. So it's just up to you. It's just down to you.
Having said that, it's like such an unconventional exam because it's not taught in any school or sixth form. So like you want to kind of get ahead, not necessarily with the content, but start getting familiar with the type of questions. So for me, it was about like I've never seen this kind of questions before and I don't know how to tackle them. So I prefer to start a little bit earlier because like that stuff hasn't been taught to me before. So I'd rather get on it a little bit early. Compared to like everybody learns differently. Like Fadila mentioned, she's like a last minute person, and then she works more effectively when it's nearer the exam. Whereas for me, I have to like plan everything out and make sure that I'm gonna actually, you know, chart my revision and peak at the right time. But it's kind of subjective. Yeah.
Yeah, we've also got another question. Would you recommend an undergrad over a postgrad course in general? So I think Khushbu and Binny, did you want to cast some light onto that?
Hi, so I did apply for an undergrad initially, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. But as a postgraduate student, I did recognize that compared to my undergraduate, you're just a lot more mature. So you got a lot more knowledge. You're not there to like go out and sort of like mess about sort of thing. You're there to get your degree and that's it. And everyone within your cohort as well they've all got the same mindset. So they're all a little bit older. You can learn a lot from them as well. Like on my courses, it ranges from about 22 to about 40. So there's people at a variety of ages, and obviously they've got a lot of life experience as well. So it's really good to learn from them. So I would recommend a postgraduate if you're in the position. But obviously if you're coming from A levels and you can get into an undergraduate, then that's absolutely fine as well. Like as long as you get in, I think that's the hardest part. You're just gaining your place, and once you've gained your place, you can fly through. So it's a bit of both. It's just depends what age you are, but if I was a postgraduate and I was applying for an undergraduate or postgraduate, I would 100% apply for a graduate entry place, just because of you won't be with 18-year-olds who are not as immature as you would be because of the life experiences that you've had.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I think that's really, really true. It depends, I guess, how you feel. For me, I think what's more important than the length of the course, because with graduate entry it's 4 years, with obviously undergrad you're doing the full 5 years. So I guess that's the deciding factor for most people. But like I said, for me it was more how did I feel for it. For me, I was a lot happier in Glasgow, the atmosphere and everything else going on, than I was when I went to the postgrad area for the course. For the university. Also, I don't mind being the old one in the year. I quite see it as like So no postgrads are mixed in. So yeah, if you do a graduate entry course, everyone there is a graduate. Whereas if you do an undergrad course, everyone there has either finished A levels and has just gone into university, or you have people that are graduate that have gone in there as well. So you get a mixture of all years and experiences. But I quite like that. I have no issue being the older one, or sort of, sounds cheesy, but you sort of mentor certain students in certain ways, and they sort of come to you with advice or questions, sorry, not advice, questions, or asking for advice. And yeah, I think that works really well. I think Glasgow, when I joined, had the most entry for graduates at that year, because they were trying something new out. So what they've done is have one graduate for X amount of undergrad people, students, and they've got them in like a class format as well. So you break off into little groups. And I think that works really, really well, just having that different experiences. But yeah, it depends what you're looking for and how comfortable you feel in that university.
I think whichever you go for, there's something to learn from everyone. Like, I don't think age necessarily defines someone's maturity or how much experience they've gone through. Everyone has their kind of own life experience and life story. So wherever you go, you will find people to learn something from. Like, I'm on an undergraduate course straight out of college, but you know, some graduate students feel that they can learn something from me, and I feel like I can take something else from them. So, you know, you can just learn something from everyone.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I'm going to introduce DTO, who is currently a fourth year student at Newcastle, who's going to be talking about their experience.
Yeah, hi, I'm Addy. I'm currently just completing my fourth year at Newcastle, so just going into my fifth and final year. Just a bit of background information. 22 years old, born and raised in Leicester, with parents from Nigeria. Attended a school in Loughborough. For Gcses, I got 80 stars and 2 A's. AS levels, I did biology, chemistry, maths and physics. I got a B in physics, so I dropped it. My predicted grades were A star in chemistry and 2 A's, and in the end I got 3 A's. As I said, I'm studying at Newcastle and I'm an undergraduate. I didn't take a gap year. Just my application process. So why dentistry? It's quite a cliche for me. I actually wanted to be a doctor originally, but around year 10, I think I switched because someone suggested like I might suit dentistry. So after that, once someone had told me, I kind of opened my eyes. I did want more research, and I realised I actually probably would be more suited to dentistry than medicine, just because it's very hands-on, and I'm quite a hands-on person. I've always loved science. I like the routine of a dentist as well. It's a bit more like manageable hours. So just when I did that, and then on top of work experience, it just made me like more aware to me that I think dentistry is for me. The universities I applied to, Newcastle, Queen Mary, Leeds and Sheffield. I was lucky enough to get 4 interviews. They were all panel interviews bar Leeds, which is quite interesting because usually MMI is usually the way these days. My Ucat score, I got 2,660, so 65 average, and a band 3 situational judgment, which isn't very good. But I think for my year, it was like the second year they brought it in, and I don't think Newcastle really looked at it. I'd say my Ucat score is okay. It's not the best. There's a lot higher, but it's also not horrifically bad. So I think what helped me probably get my interviews was probably my overall application, because I had quite a good personal statement on top of other stuff. So I think that shows that don't be too disheartened if your Ucat score isn't ridiculously high. As long as you have a very strong application all around, good work experience, grades, etc., then you should be fine. I also did BMAT for Leeds. I can't remember my score for that one. So in the end, I got 2 offers, Queen Mary and Newcastle. I ultimately chose Newcastle. I think what boiled down to me, it was quite an obvious decision. It was more for location. I didn't really want to go to London as much. And Queen Mary at that point was quite enticing because they just built their new building. I think they built their new dental building. But yeah, I just would rather not be in London. There were some downsides when I considered Newcastle. Obviously, when I looked at their teaching methods, it's quite traditional, so you actually don't see patients till 3rd year. So that originally put me off. But then when I spoke to some other students at Newcastle, like on open days and stuff, they said it actually goes very quickly because you start doing the key clinical skills in 2nd year. So you start working on phantom heads. So it's actually not that bad as far as clinical experience goes, even though you don't see patients till third year, you're still doing clinical stuff in second year. Otherwise, Newcastle, as I said, are quite traditional, which actually works for me. Like, we have a lot of lectures and seminars and stuff like that. So they give you a lot of the information. You do your lectures, you have your seminars. First year, you spend the whole year doing anatomy. You're in the like dissecting room. So it's not as bad as it sounds. I wouldn't be put off too much with sort of clinical experience as much. And then obviously once you've done the KCS in second year, third year, you're thrown straight into it. You see patients a couple of times a week. So it's generally not too bad. Another thing that maybe choose Newcastle with Queen Mary was the interview. Newcastle definitely try its more friendly approach to their interviews. It's basically a chat about your personal statement, which worked really well for me because I had a lot of stuff to talk about. So it was like more of a chat, and I came out like really happy and smiling. And Queen Mary's, although I was really happy to get an offer, I wasn't expecting it because theirs is a lot more formal with regards to, like, if I hadn't prepared as well, I definitely would have been caught out. There weren't as many smiling and stuff like that. So I think that shows you just got to be prepared for what you're expecting. But I think because Newcastle was so friendly, that definitely helped when I decided to pick them as my ultimate uni. Can I have next slide? Yeah, thank you. So just my manual dexterity and work experience. Manual dexterity was quite easy for me. I play 3 instruments at quite high grades, so I had that. I also do archery, and I was part of an archery club, so I was asked that at my interviews, so I was able to transfer those skills over. And then in my spare time, I just did origami, so I had a decent amount of stuff to show my manual dexterity skills. Work experience, I had 1 week in a general dentist, 1 week maths, facts, and 1 week community dental. So I think my work experience was quite good because it showed quite a varied sort of range of things that dentists need to do. And I was, again, asked that at all the interviews. They could ask you, because you did general and maths facts, what are the different things and how does a dentist work in a team? So it really allowed me to get sort of a broad sense of what the job of a dentist entails. I also was a St. John Ambulance cadet, so I did first aid. That was just, you know, something additionally I did weekly. Obviously, it is transferable because first aid, you do that in dentistry, and it's just like shows volunteering. I visited an elderly couple for a year in year 12, and I volunteered at a nursery. So I think these are kind of stuff that even post-COVID you could be doing, just visiting a care home or just volunteering at a nursery. That stuff, again, I was asked at my interviews because I especially like to see how you interact with different age groups. So I think Newcastle asked me what are the different skills you need between visiting an elderly couple and dealing with children. And obviously as a dentist, you're going to be seeing a lot of different age groups. So that's another sort of volunteering that might not be dental related that you could show. I think additionally, I also did a week at a GP, which I think other people have done as well. And then lastly, this is kind of similar to critical thinking. I did an engineering scheme in year 12, and I had to write a report and like do a presentation. But my point with this one is that even just doing anything in your school, just like projects or something like that, you can always bring that in to show the skills you learned from doing that thing. So that can be like EPQ, critical thinking, or anything you're doing, just extra thing you can do. Next slide. So just my 10 tips. Number 1, be organised. It's quite obvious. Obviously, a lot's going to be going on when you're applying, so just make lists, write everything down, keep on top of your schoolwork. I like to sort of, definitely year 13, get a lot of apps that set a lot of reminders because there's a lot of things you need to do and you might forget it. So just apps that just remind you at a certain time to like hand this slip in or send this application off. Just little things like that, just keep on top of things. Number 2, get help from friends and family. Personal statement, you can get people to read over, obviously not too many people, but just getting your friends or your family at least to read over your personal statement definitely helped me, just like spelling mistakes and just ways you can phrase stuff better. Obviously that links into interviews as well. Get your family to help you prepare. Number 3, keep up hobbies, stay active and healthy. Because obviously just for your mental health, just keeping up other stuff, but also, you know, they want to see a varied person in dentistry. You know, it's not all about dentistry. They want to see that you can do other stuff, so just keep that up. Number 4, use online forums such as Instagram and Student Room, as well as books. So I think this is really helpful. I think when I applied, Instagram definitely hadn't taken off as much, but now the amount of stuff on Instagram, like I want to be a dentist, is just amazing. So just using these resources that are out there can really be helpful. Obviously, Student Room, you take that pinch of salt, but that's still good for just seeing about interviews, where they've sent out stuff, or even exams. You know, we all use student room, and obviously books as well. Buy whatever books you need. Along with Instagram as well, you could ask or message a lot of these dental accounts. There's so many out there, and a lot of them do want to help you. So if you just ask them for advice, I'm sure they'll get back to you. Number 5, do as much research as possible into career and engage your work experience. It's probably been said many times, but obviously, like, make notes of your work experience. We said in the webinar a couple of weeks ago, make sure it's a career you want to do, etc. Number 6, don't let odds put you off. What I mean by saying that is, obviously, a lot of people tell you, oh, you know, dentistry is only 1 in 200 places or stuff like those, like large odds, and they can get very overwhelming. So I think the thing is just like keep your belief and make sure, no, even though there are hard odds, you can get in, and people do get in. So just keep that belief and motivation, and you know, if you don't get in first time, you will get in eventually. Number 7, make personal statements as much as possible. Obviously quite obvious, it's the first thing they read, so just make sure it's the best you possibly can. Number 8, prepare early for the Ucat. Similar to the questions before, just prepare for the best possible opportunity for yourself. Number 9, similar again, be prepared as much as possible for the interviews. You know, do your research, practice with your friends, be confident. And then lastly, stay motivated, be happy, and just believe in yourself. And I think that is the big thing for getting in. As long as you have the belief, you will get there eventually. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was really, really informative, and lots of tips there to take away. I'm now going to introduce Justine, who actually took a gap year before entering dentistry. So, Just, do you want to talk about your experience?
Yeah, so I'm Jazz, and I am going into my 5th year at Plymouth Uni, or Peninsula. It's a bit of a weird one. Okay, so I actually am going to talk about my background first, but I want to focus on my journey because I think I made a lot of mistakes, and I think everyone needs to hear about the mistakes because they're not the obvious ones that I think people immediately think of. So I'll get into that in a second. So my background is that I took a gap year because I missed my grades the first time round, and I'm from Ivor, and I love sports, especially netball, and so that's a bit about me. Qualification wise, when I applied, I did 14 Gcses, 5 A stars, 9 A's, and then at A level I got 3 A's in the end. I did biology, chemistry, psychology, and maths, and then I dropped maths at AS. And non-academic wise, I was a sports centre duty manager. I was a junior charity board member. I completed my silver DOV. I did my leadership award, had piano grade 5, and I also in my gap year did more, but I'll go on to my gap year in a second. So when I first originally applied to dental school, I did get 3 out of my 4 interview offers, and everyone's saying to research, and I cannot say how important that is. Research, phone up schools, and get all the information you need. But there's also a point where you over-research. So for me, what I did the first time round was I sat my Ucat, and I thought my grades, I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be. I wasn't very happy with my grades, but they weren't bad. And I actually went onto each school and looked at what they took the year before, and I estimated myself of where I would be and, you know, how well I would do. And I really, really liked the look of King's, but I looked at my Ucat and I was like, I don't think I'll get in with that. To only later find, so I didn't apply, to only later find out that I actually would have got an offer had they liked everything else about me if I applied to them. I had overlooked into it to the point where I was doubting myself, and I was thinking I wasn't applying the information I got to my current year. I was using previous years, didn't really know how anyone else did in my year. And I made a decision that I really do regret slightly, because I would have loved to see if I could have gone there. So that's one thing. Like, don't look at your Ucat score. Obviously, look at their requirements, but don't try and look at these forums and predict where you are in relation to the rest of the year. So if they say, okay, we only take over a certain number, that's great. But if you're just looking at forums and going, well, I got in with this and that's not as high as yours, that's not a good way of thinking. The next thing I'd say is looking at your GCSEs. A lot of people forget that, I mean, my grades aren't bad. I got 14 GCSEs between A stars and A's, nothing, no B's, nothing like that. So I thought I didn't have anything to worry about. And the only offer I didn't get to interview stage was Birmingham. And that's because they required, at my time, 6 A stars at GCSE, which I had missed, and I didn't do the research good enough in that area at looking at the requirements. So I asked for feedback, and their feedback was purely because I didn't have 6 A stars at GCSEs, I had 5. So again, something that you need to look at, if it says in the requirements, you know, we only accept 6 A stars and more, they do actually mean that. So have a look at that prior. So obviously research, but research the official guidance, not the guidance from forums or other people that you don't maybe trust as much, who aren't from reputable companies. The second thing I want to say is Ucat. The first time round, I didn't get any help. I kind of just looked online, tried to learn from the stuff. Instagram wasn't a big thing when I was applying. It was hard to find any information, so I kind of just I just revised on my own and looked at books. Second time round, I went to a course, and I can't, like, honestly, my grade just went so much higher because of the course. So I say, like we are doing, I Want to Be a Dentist is doing Ucat course, it is really, really important. Don't think that not going to it won't make much of a difference. From my experience, it made a huge difference, and hindsight is a great thing, and I wish I'd done that course my first time round, just so I wouldn't have had that little bit of doubt in my head when I applied. So I highly suggest to do courses if they're available to you. Then why not take that extra help? Don't try and think you can do it on yourself, because there's no harm in doing that anyway. And then for how I chose my schools, the first time around I applied to Birmingham, Plymouth, where else did I apply? Liverpool and Bristol. So I got Liverpool, Plymouth and Bristol as offers to interview, and then I did get all 3 offers at the end. And I was really like Plymouth. So the reason why I like Plymouth is because you got to see patients in first year. It's like hands-on. The first week you go in, you start working on Phantom's head. Like within your first week, you're already on the Phantom head. It's amazing. It's a very small school. It's very new. We've only had like 2 years of graduates this year. I mean, since we've opened, everything's brand new. You get to move around a lot, so you're not in Plymouth for the whole 5 years. You move 1 year to a place called Truro, and then you have clinics in 1 year in Exeter, which is really nice. It's a PBL format, which is problem-based, so you get into small groups, you learn a bit, like you go through a case, you go off, learn the research to answer your questions you made in the case, and that's like continuous learning. And also the exam style. So a lot of schools have exams like every so often, or exam on specific topics. We have one large exam at the end of each term, which encompasses everything you've learned. And that suits me better, because I think I'd struggle to learn every single topic to that much detail, whereas in this you have to have just a broad understanding of how to apply the knowledge. So for me, Plymouth seemed like the right option. So I really wanted to put them down. But at the time, my mum, I was the first person to go to university in like my immediate family. So my mum was looking at rankings, and she was like, no, Liverpool's ranked high. You need to put Liverpool down first. So I did. And I didn't want to go there because I didn't like it as much as Plymouth's course. But I listened to my mum, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll put it down. And the funny thing is now Plymouth is up to like 4th or 3rd in the ranking. So in the years I've been at school, it changes so much. But I'll get onto ranking in a second. But anyway, so it came to results day. I didn't get my grades. I missed out by a few UMS. And Liverpool, I phoned up Liverpool. They said, sorry, we can't take you. I phoned up Plymouth, and they said, if you'd put us as your first choice, we would have taken you. So I kind of shot myself in the foot. If I'd gone with my gut and listened to myself, not listening to other people, I may have gone into first time round. That being said, my gap year was a blessing in disguise, and I loved it. So back to the ranking thing. As everyone said, don't look at rankings because there is bias, and I'll tell you why there's bias. It's because the ranking is based on what the students think. Every year we all set a student quiz, annual like thing, but you rate your own university, and then they collect that information and they publish it a few years later, not the year it was taken. So therefore, your ranking will never line up to that academic year. It's a bit weird, but yeah, it's not based on any other stats other than what the students feel like saying on that day, basically. So just remember that all universities that do dentistry have to meet the same requirements by the GDC or the bodies. So regardless of which university you go to, you're going to get the same learning and the same experience, just set about in a different way. So look at the course and see if the course suits you. And that's what I did for Plymouth, and that's why I loved it. So yeah, I had to take a gap year. It wasn't by choice, as you've heard, because I didn't get my grades. But it was a blessing in disguise. And I chose to take a gap year rather than going through clearing and doing a different degree, because I knew, like, my heart was set on dentistry, and I wanted to take that year out to work on myself. I knew I could get the grades. I was predicted all A's, an A star actually, AA, and I just didn't have a good day on the exam. So I knew I had that potential, and I just didn't want to give up. So I went on to my gap year, did work experience, travelled. I got a job at a dental practice. I actually travelled to America to a dental school over there and stayed 2 weeks there to look around and do some work experience there. So I've already spoken in previous webinars, which will be on the YouTube channel, about my gap year. But it's a really, really good time to work on yourself and work on your application. And then in terms of my application, I wouldn't say much change in my application for both time round, other than more work experience, because you have to, if you take a gap year, you have to show what you did to show that you continue to drive to dentistry. If you just take the gap year out and do nothing, I don't think that will work in your favour very well. So I had work experience. My manual dexterity was my piano. I also cross stitch, and then obviously my netball, which is like hand-eye coordination. And then obviously I've got my good attributes of communication because of my jobs, working as a junior board member of the charity, doing things like that. So that was all my background and qualifications. And then the next slide is my top tips. So never give up. I can't tell you how important that is, because when I first applied, when I didn't get my grades, I honestly just shut down. I didn't speak to anyone. It was my birthday week that week. I didn't even do anything. It was my 18th, didn't do anything. I was just so like, no, this is it, my life's over. And it really wasn't. And I'm not joking when I say never give up. Like, if you have that drive, if you really want to do dentistry, you will find a way to get there, whether it's doing another course, taking a gap year, working for a bit and then reapplying. You can get there if you really try. Follow your gut. Don't let other people decide your course or your uni for you. Make that decision yourself. And as everyone said, they had a feeling when they went to the uni. I think Benny said when he went to Glasgow that he had a feeling. He enjoyed that interview. He liked that area. And I had the same for Plymouth. I went there and I was like, yes, it's not far from home, and yes, it's quiet. It's not a big city. But I was surprised how I felt there. I felt like I liked the course. I liked the whole fact it was new. It just fit me. Have a good personal statement. We've always said that it's quite obvious, but if you haven't got anything to talk about your good attributes or why you're suited to dentistry, your manual dexterity, your work experience, then it's going to go straight in the bin. They're not even going to consider that. Get your work experience. Even if it's, I know COVID's a bit of an issue now, but even if it's an online thing or in other areas, I did work experience at school, at a GP. Where else did I go? Loads of random. I went to a bank. It's all very random, but it just consolidated more that I wanted to do dentistry. It just made it even more clear to me. So even if it's something you think you don't want to do, just be able to rule it out is a good thing to do. Be proactive. So my gap year, I had to be proactive, otherwise I would just be sitting around doing nothing. The fact that I actually went to America when I travelled in my gap year just to go help with a charity organisation out there. And I ended up speaking to someone who worked at the dental school. Because I was proactive, I was able to stay an extra, a week and a half to go and shadow dental school in the States, which was amazing. And it was something I could speak about in my interview. And that just showed how proactive I was. It wasn't something I had planned when I went to America, but it's something I luckily fell into. Manage your time well. That's where I fell when it came to my A levels, when I sat them the first time. I think I did have the potential, obviously, to do well in my A levels, but I just got unlucky with the paper. I then let that paper get me down. I didn't just compartmentalize each exam and just sit them. So that's what I'd say. Try to manage your stress. That's what I didn't do. I know I set one bad exam, and instead of like trying harder on my second one, I was just like, this is it, I'm going to take gap year anyway, I know I'm going to fail. Don't think like that. Work hard, ask for help when you need it. So if I hadn't, like, the first time around, just do everything you can, go on courses, go ask people to look at your personal statement, ask us, we're all available, you're all able to message us. Like, being here on this webinar is a good start, basically, and do it for you. If dentistry is not your passion, you're going to find it hard to get in, firstly, and to complete the course. It is a long course, so you need to have that drive and wanting to do it for you and your future to ever come out the end of it, basically. And that's it, really.
Fantastic, Jazz. Thank you. I think on the back of that, I think we've got a couple of questions, but I think they've been answered in the chat. I'm just going to have a quick look through there. So if you take a gap year, can you apply for the same universities that rejected you?
No, so for me, I couldn't. I could only apply to 2 universities in the second time round, which was Plymouth, who let me reapply, and Sheffield, who at the time took retake students. So basically, you have to phone up the unis. This is what I suggest to do prior to taking your gap year. So your first time around, so for anyone who's a undergraduate straight out of school, to look at this prior. So look at their entry requirements and see if they allow gap year students, or if they have any clauses with that. So for example, some unis say we only allow gap year students if you apply to us the first time round, or we only allow gap year students if you put us as your first option first time round, things like that. So just make sure you look prior, because I didn't, and that meant I only had 2 unis I could apply to the second time round.
I've also got here from someone, I thought universities can't see the order of your choices that you rank for. So how did they know that was not your first choice?
So they don't. So when you get your offers, you have to firm a choice. So you have to, well, when I did it anyway, you have to like click confirm to the top choice, and then click confirm to back up the second choice. So they know that you didn't make them their first choice. So they only first place and second place know that you put them there. I don't know if that's changed now. So if someone,
Raza,
if you know that.
Sorry, what was the question?
If you can tell where your uni's ranked, I said that because you have to firm a place when you get your offers. They do. Yeah. They firmed if you firm them first, or firm them as a second place.
So some universities, not necessarily for dentistry, but some universities, when you firm them, they say if you make us your firm choice, we'll kind of lower your entry requirements. So they do know, they are aware whether you firm them or they're your insurance choice. But yeah, as soon as you do that, they do get a notification, and they are aware whether you put them down as your first or your second choice.
That's correct. So in terms of your grades, Jazz, I think we've got a question regarding that. So what grades did you get first time around in your A-levels?
So I got A, B, B. So I missed my chemistry and biology grades by 1 UMS and 3 UMS. So it wasn't even a mark in one of them, and it was 1 mark in the other one. And then I regraded them, and nothing changed. I think one of them went down by 2 UMS. So yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. But at the time we had modular, so I only had to take one bit of the exam for one of them and one bit of the exam for the other one. I didn't have to do the whole A-level again.
We've got a question probably more relevant to the graduates. Do grad entries look at your GCSEs, Binny and Khushbu?
I'll let Kush go first if she wants.
Thanks. So basically, the reason why I got rejected was because of my GCSE English. So both my GCSE English and language, they were both at Bs, but every other GCSE that I'd done was at an A. And most universities, I don't think there's any universities now, apart from UCLan as a grad entry, that take GCSEs lower than an A. So when I applied for all my undergraduate courses, it was straight rejection, because they have like a tick box. So as long as you meet that tick box, like for your A-levels, your GCSEs, your work experience, your Ucat score, and etc., as long as you meet that criteria, then that's only how you progress to the next stage. If you don't meet that criteria, then you're basically, they they discount you, so you just get rejected. So I would definitely look, they definitely do look at your GCSE scores, because that was the main reason why I was rejected. So it's definitely worth checking every university, like everyone else has said, and giving them a call as well. Like, I rang up so many universities to say, this is my situation, this is what A-levels, GCSEs, Ucat Score, work experience, degree I've got, what is the likelihood that I'll be like invited for an interview at least, and then they'll let you know. So it's really good to ring up, just be proactive and just use universities as much as possible to get as much information from them, because they're there to do that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, especially with knowing if they allow retakes, because I think someone said I didn't think they allow retakes. Ring them up just to make sure you understand their specifications properly, because it's a bit hard to read it online. So just phone them up and be like, if I want to get my grades this year, do you consider retakes? And it also gives you up-to-date information for that academic year.
I think Plymouth, for example, takes retakes, but you have to achieve a minimum BBB in your A-level, if I'm correct about that. So yeah,
some that don't
some don't consider retakes at all, but some, they are kind of lenient. If you've applied to them, put them down as like your first choice and like you missed out your grades, or if you put them down as a choice and you didn't get no offers, like, you know, they might still consider you, but it's best to like give the university a call, and they're there to help. So the admissions team would always try and like answer your questions and honestly just tell you whether you have a chance of being considered or not.
And someone just messaged saying how I took my retakes. So I did that in my gap year. I actually went back to my school, and they offer a year 14. Is it 14? Yeah. Which is basically where they will let you take your A-level retake at school, but you're not allowed to sit in classes or anything. So you just turn up on the day of the retake, and you can sit it at them as if it's like a centre. But you have to find a school that lets you do that, basically. And you do have to pay to resit your exam, what I did at the time.
Or you could use like a private centre. There's a lot of A-level private candidates out there who they don't attend any like tutoring sessions, and they just turn up on the day of the exam.
And I just want to make sure that people are aware that there are other access schemes into dental school. So I know a lot of people are asking, like, do they allow lower grade entries, you know, for certain people? They do. You do have to go, make sure you ring up the schools directly and ask about their access schemes, because some people with certain background histories, things like that, they do allow lower grades acceptance, obviously after they go through the process and still want you to join dental school, things like that. But it's something worth looking into if you do feel that it's something that may apply to you. Every single university, dental school, has an access scheme into dentistry.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're now going to be moving on to Khushbu, who's going to be talking about her really unique journey into dental school. So I'm not going to spoil any surprises. So Khushbu, would you like to tell them your story?
Okay, so this is kind of a long story, but basically living proof that you can get there if you really, really want to. So basically overall, I'm a qualified dental nurse. From there, I discovered that you could be a dental hygienist and therapist. So in my third year, I then applied for dentistry, got rejected, and then that's why I did a master's in oral biology. And then when I was doing my master's, I applied again for dentistry, and then here I am. So that's a very brief overall picture, and I'll discuss it in a little bit more detail now. Okay, so for my GCSEs, I achieved 11 A stars to B. My B grades were in GCSE English and GCSE English Literature and English Language. So those and everything else were A's and A stars. So those were the ones that really did pull me down when I was applying the first and second time round. So that's why it's so important to like really research your universities to find out whether you will meet the cutoff point or not. Because I was in denial. I thought, oh, I've got really good GCSEs everywhere else. They won't look at the GCSEs, but they really do. A-levels wise, I basically resat So I did my A-levels twice, well, some of the modules. So the first time, overall I did applied business, chemistry and biology. So the first time round I got ACD, and then I basically took a gap year. And in that gap year, in 2014 and 2015, I qualified as a dental nurse, and obtained an NVQ level 3. So at the same time as doing my dental nursing qualification, I resat 2 modules in chemistry and biology, and I was able to get my grades up to ABC. And straight away, I knew that like I didn't have the grades for dentistry, because they are straight A's. Like there was no possibility that I'd get in. So then I thought, from dental nursing, what else could I do? So then when I was dental nursing, I basically was shadowing like the hygienist, like gaining experience from head dental nurses. Obviously, I was shadowing the dentist and helping out with different procedures. And then I looked into dental hygiene and therapy from there, so that I didn't even know dental hygienists and therapists existed until I actually started working in practice. So when I did, then I realised that I actually would enjoy being a hygienist and therapist. So then I applied for that because I thought my grades are close. Again, for a lot of the universities, they wanted ABB or they wanted BBB. So it was just the biology that was really making me lack in achieving the full grades. So then I successfully obtained a place in Cardiff University. So initially my first choice was Teesside, which was based on UMS. So they were based on points rather than grades. So that was my firm choice. And then Cardiff was actually my insurance choice. But then that was solely just based on, I was solely picked Teesside only because of my grades. I was like, there's no point me putting Cardiff because I know I won't get the 3 Bs that they require. So then basically what happened was, on results day, I got my results and Teesside was confirmed and Cardiff hadn't rejected me. So I was wondering why it was still my insurance. So then all of a sudden I just rang up. I said, I've got these grades. Is there any possibility that you could accept me onto the course? Because Cardiff is a Russell Group university. The city as a whole was a lot nicer than Teesside, which is in Middlesbrough. So I rang up and they were like, yeah, you just need to basically like reject your place for Teesside and then accept the Cardiff University place. So then I did that, and at one point I had no university at all. So that was a little bit scary because I was like, what if all of a sudden Cardiff just like changed their mind? But they didn't, and it was fine. And then I went to Cardiff for 3 years and graduated in 2018, and then qualified as a hygienist and therapist. And then in my 3rd year, I applied for dentistry, and straight away I got 4 straight rejections. There was not even one interview. And then I thought, okay, basically it's fate. I was like, I'm not dentistry, like being a dentist is not for me. But then I was basically doing MMIs. So I was helping out on MMIs, and I spoke to the dean of the dental school. So he was also a panel on the MMIs as well. And we both, on one of the MMI stations, we both didn't have anyone. So I just went to speak to him. I just said, this is my current situation. What would you advise? And he said, to do a master's. And I thought as a hygienist and therapist that you couldn't do a master's. So I thought, I didn't even think of like that was an option. So I just got some more information from him, and he said, yeah, we run several masters here at Cardiff. So then I applied for an MSc in oral biology. That was a year long, very intense, but it was worth it in the end. I didn't actually need my MSc to get into dentistry at all. So it was just like an extra thing that I wanted to do, and it would help with things like clinical lecturing in the future. So I did that. So that's why I think it's really important to speak to whoever you can, whoever's in the dental field, just as many people as possible, because they all have different experiences and they know a route to get there. So that was something I really did learn. Like, networking is so important, and I try to do it like weekly, daily, like as much as possible. And then whilst I was doing my master's was 12 months. So then I applied for dentistry again in my master's, and I think I just changed a few of my options. I know the first time around I didn't pick UCLan. The second time around I picked UCLan because it was the only university that I'd got the GCSEs for, because they required, I think they accepted Bs in English, GCSE, literature and language, and the A-level grades are actually 3 Cs. So you can get into dentistry with 3 Cs. Well, I got in with ABC, which probably is the lowest that any of us that on the panel today have actually got in. So yeah, I got in with ABC, and now I've just finished my first year and I'm going into my second year, and it's a 4-year graduate entry program. And like I said before, the course is, there's 29 places, so it's really small. It's, the teaching is really good because obviously you've got more contact with your tutors because there's so few of you, and you just get to know each other really well, and it's just nice that you're just a small group and you're learning from each other, and everyone's got a lot of different backgrounds. Okay, so why did I choose to study dental hygiene and therapy? So as working within, as a dental nurse, I knew I wanted to do more. Like within the 3 months of training as a dental nurse, I wasn't bored, but I knew that I could progress and I had a lot more to offer. So it would be doing hygiene and therapy. I was working within the dental profession. You have a good understanding of what the job entitles whilst I was training as a dental nurse. I enjoy working with people, and dental hygiene and therapy was basically was my foundation, and it's also a foundation for all restorative dental treatment. So it's such an important role within dentistry that if this isn't right, a lot of the treatments that dentists do carry out, they can't carry out successfully. So it is a really vital role. So I would suggest that if you don't have the grades and you do want to work within the dental in the dental field, or you're not sure what to do as an undergraduate program, then hygiene and therapy is a really good place to start. Because not only that, if you don't want to study after hygiene and therapy, you've got a secure job that you can go into in the future. So I can actually work alongside training as a dental student, which is really good. And not only that, when I'm actually learning things and going to lectures, a lot of the terminology is familiar, which honestly works wonders. Like there's little things that will become second nature to you at the beginning. It's literally, you forget the basics. But for me, because I'd been exposed as a nurse and a hygienist and therapist, it was just second nature. So that was really good. And why I chose UCLan, well, first of all, it was the only interview and offer I received, so I kind of had no choice. But overall, I am enjoying it, and I feel blessed that I've actually come this far and I've actually obtained my place. They've got excellent facilities, so they've got things like anatomy rooms, which makes the learning and teaching a lot more interactive, and you can really visualize like the anatomy of the body. Rather than just looking through lecture slides and looking through pictures, which I found really good. Like I said, it's a small cohort, so there's only 29 of us. The dental training is tailored to what it would be like working within dental practice. So we don't actually have a dental school. So the training that we do is we're split up into 4 dental educational centres. So these are either in Blackpool, Accrington, Morecambe or Carlisle. So that 29 of us, we're split up into 4 groups again, and then you basically work with those people throughout the rest of your 4 years. So then it's a lot more, again, like specific. Your learning needs are very specific and you get a lot more help that way. But then the teaching style that they give you, that's how you are going to work in general dental practice, rather than having a lot of dental students at one time. And the university is on campus, and it's really easy to access local places such as like Manchester, the Lake District, Liverpool. They're all within within an hour's travel on the train. So there's a lot of places, even though Preston is a small city, there's a lot of places that you can go to. Okay, so work experience and career insight. So what have I learned? So work experience wise, I've learned team working skills, organisation skills, that there's so many diverse roles within the dental profession and you need all of these roles. So qualifying as a dental nurse, hygienist and therapist, I really understood how important each role is to just work as a team and successfully deliver dental treatment to your patients. I've also got a deeper insight into the dental profession, both working in the NHS and private dentistry, and the importance of how medicine is related to dentistry, because when you're treating patients, you're not treating patients you're not just treating the mouth, you're treating the patient, like their whole body, because a medical issue that could arise from their body can actually affect their mouth. So it's really important to just have a passion for dentistry and medicine, really, because you will become a doctor, and it's because you are effectively treating the whole body as well as the mouth. So manual dexterity wise, I do a lot of henna patterns. So for things like weddings, it's quite an Asian thing to do. But yeah, henna patterns, nail art, and sewing. So they're 3 things that I use for my manual dexterity. And work experience wise, I did 1 week in an NHS practice. I did 3 weeks in a private practice. I did 1 week working in a pharmacy, which I think was in year 10. And I did 1 week in a hospital placement. So this was looking into like pediatrics. I think I went on to antenatal clinics. I went on to x-ray surgery. So it was quite diverse, but obviously it is really important to try and get as much work experience in a dentist field as much as possible, because that's what the universities will be looking at. But I've also completed a BTEC in the fire and rescue service, so it's a bit weird, but yeah, I basically trained as a person who helps out if there's any like fires and things like that. And then a year after that, I did mentor the students when they were completing their course. So that just showed a little bit of work experience and how I could tie in teamwork with that, and just being organised, because I had to deliver presentations and things like that. So any work experience that you do, it is good to make sure that you can relate it back to dentistry, and it is more than likely that you will be able to relate it back. Okay, so my top tips are, first of all, to believe that you are capable of securing a place. So when I think back and reflect, the first thing I realized was when I applied in my 3rd year, I didn't believe that I was going to get a place, and I didn't. But when I applied in my master's, I just kept telling myself that this is the year that you're going to get a place, and it happened. So it's so important that you do believe in yourself, because it does work wonders. You can't, if you have no belief, then you're not going to get there. You have to believe that you are capable of securing that place, and you'll be in that lecture theatre, basically becoming a dental student. So you really do have to believe. Secondly, I'd say don't give up, even if you're not successful the first time. For me, it was a second time as well. So you will get there as long as you have the drive and determination, and that is definitely what you want to do. I had a lot of support from my family as well. Like if I wasn't successful in my master's, I was actually going to go abroad and study dentistry, because I just knew, like, hygiene and therapy, even though it's such a great career, I knew I was capable of providing more, and I wanted to provide more. And hygiene and therapy, it's not limited in what you can do, but there are more things that I wanted to do as a dentist, and I wanted to offer the services I wanted to offer. So it just literally depends on you as a person, on how you want to progress. Thirdly, I'd say start your personal statement early and submit it when you're proud of it yourself. When you read that statement and you think, wow, that is me in one sheet of paper, that's when you need to submit it, because that means that you're happy with it and you're confident that, yes, I believe that I will successfully gain a place, and this is a proud piece of work that I have achieved. And the only way you're going to do that is to start it early. Send it to dentists, send it to friends, send it to people who are just good at English, because they can spot the small errors that people within medicine and dentistry may not be looking for. So definitely send it to people who are really good at English and are good at grammar. The fourth one is be yourself and express your passion at the interview. The more that you be yourself, it will show that you're more well-rounded person, and that you are right to gain that place. And really do express your passion. Don't over express it to show that you're too keen, but express it enough so then they know that you're not just doing it for example, a lot of people in Asian communities, a lot of people do it for their parents rather than themselves. So just make sure that you are doing it for yourself, and it's not just for the status of becoming a dentist, because dentistry is a very demanding and stressful career, but if you are passionate about it and it's something that you want to do, then it doesn't feel like a job, it feels like a hobby, and that's how it feels like for me. The studying side is a little bit different, but when you're treating patients, it honestly doesn't feel like a job to me, which is really, it's just really nice to have that feeling. The fifth one, like has been mentioned a lot before, do your research. So ensure you've studied your chosen universities you're applying to well. So this this will really help you shine in your interviews. So maybe research. So for example, in Cardiff, the rugby is very it's very popular here. But in Preston, something that's very popular is just like the cultural community. So just really study it, and just they'll 100% ask you why you chose this university over others. So you need to have discrete points as to why this university is not necessarily better, but why you would prefer this one than others. Like I said, for UCLan, something that really stood out for me was this small cohort. And in hygiene therapy, there was only 10 of us. So I was only really used to studying in a very small cohort. So this worked perfectly for me. And also just being able to travel very locally. So there's a lot of stuff that you can go to locally. So just make sure you have discrete points about each university and why you are applying to them. Number 6 is familiarise yourself with GCSE standards and NHS values, something that they do tie in now. And I think it's more so for graduate entry, because possibly because you're a little bit more mature, but they did tie in, they did ask me some questions about the GCSE standards and NHS values and why they're incorporated. So you just need to just make sure that you are aware of them and you just read up about them and why basically that we follow them as dentists and as hygienists and therapists and as nurses. So just really familiarize yourself with them, so you're not you understand the question when it's asked. Another one is dress smartly and be confident even if you are nervous. Don't let your nerves take over you, because that 1 or 2 hour interview that you have can determine your whole future. So just really just keep the nerves calm and just keep that belief that you will get there, and just be as you can hide. Everyone can hide their nerves, but you've just got to practice through this. It's just literally practicing with different types of people, and just remember that you will be successful. Number 8 will be keep up with your manual dexterity. So this is really important because some dental schools might actually ask you to do some practicals, and you just need to make sure that you can show that you've got hand-to-eye coordination, and you can basically on the spot explain how you do keep up your hand and eye coordination. Be organized on interview day. So make sure that you have all your required documents prepared and they're all organized. Possibly I have a bit of OCD, so I sort of sticky note everything and be like, okay, this is my passport, this is my document for this is this, and leave plenty of time for traveling, because the last thing you want to do is be late, because that's first of all the first impression. You need to make sure you'd want to be punctual, so you don't want to be late for anything like this, because straight away that's going to show that obviously you will be passionate, but this sort of sets you back from everyone else. So just leave plenty of time so you are well prepared and you'll get there on time. And the last one is to practice the Ucat exam thoroughly, because several universities do have a cut-off score and you don't want to lose out on your place just because of the Ucat. So go on courses, look at the services that we're going to provide with I Want to Be a Dentist as well, and just really practice as much as possible, because the more practice that you do, the more successful that you'll be. And good luck with all your applications.
That is fantastic. Really inspiring story from you, Khushbu. We've got a question. Do you do work experience the year you apply, or can you do this before?
So for me, I did a lot of my work experience when I was probably about 18 or 19. So I'm 24 now, so I must have applied when I was 23. So you can do it throughout. It doesn't, as long as you've done it and you've obtained it. So my dental work experience in my general dental practice in private and NHS, they would have been when I was about 19. And I qualified as a dental nurse when I was 18. So you can, I don't think it matters, but obviously the more recent that you've done it, the better, because it'll be fresher in your mind and you'll be able to remember the experience that you've obtained from those experiences as well.
What were the reasons you found that you may have got rejected pre-interview?
So definitely my grades. So GCSEs were, I knew straight when I got my feedback from some of the universities that provided me it was that my GCSEs were an A's in GCSE English and GCSE language. So that was something that really made me get rejected. And also my A levels, a lot of universities as a graduate entry, even though I did have a degree at a 2-1, that my A levels were ABC and they weren't ABB, so that was another reason. So definitely my grades. I think everything else, also my Ucat score was not good at all. I think I got about 595 in my second time I did it, and I think the first time I got about 620. So as you don't put yourself down if you do get a low score, because I've done it. I've probably got the lowest score that applying as a dental student, but you can get there. Like, it's not the end of the world, and you just got to talk to people, I think, and just get their insight, how they would come back if they were in this position, what they would do. That's what I did with a lot of speaking to my tutors, like the head of hygiene and therapy. I just used to speak to anyone. I said, if you were in my position, what would you do? And this is how I've got where I have got. So definitely speak to people, and don't worry about your grades, but if you aren't successful because of your grades, then there are other routes and there are other options.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic advice. So I believe that leads us on to questions now. So if anyone does have any further questions, for your placements and work experience, do the majority of dentists appear to be happy and enjoy their work? We've had a question from iPhone. So what would you guys say about that? What were the experience that you got from work experience? I think maybe your question is in regards to the quality of the enjoyment of a dentist's work. I'm a qualified dentist. I've been qualified for 4 years now, and I have to say, hand on heart, I love my job. It is a fantastic career that is so expandable, and in terms of the avenues that you can go down and the teams that you work with, it is a very rewarding career, very, very, very satisfying as well, the type of work that you can perform. And I'd like to say that it is something that most dentists would agree with me. There's no other job that I can think of that I would rather be doing. And in addition to that, it's something that gives you so much satisfaction from what you do. So from my experience, speaking personally, obviously, I really enjoy it. How do you request work experience in a dental setting professionally? So why don't, Raza, do you want to discuss that?
So one of the ways you can do that is simply by turning up to the dental practice. I know that dental practice are really usually very busy. So when you end up calling the receptionist, they might already have like a sort of a transcript or, like a straight up saying no. But when you actually show up there in person and you show commitment, then the dentists who are like working, they're more inclined to take you on rather than just giving them a phone call. Of course, that might be a lot difficult because of the whole COVID situation and the time that we're in right now. So I don't think many dental practices would open their doors to potential work experience. But what you can do is look for work experience, which is online. We have a full work experience course at I Want to Be a Dentist, which is going to be launched alongside our website. So you can check that out, along with some useful resources, articles, blogs, literally any question that you could have as an undergraduate, postgraduate, a retake, gap year student. We've covered everything on the website. So that's one way you could potentially gain work experience. There's a lot of Instagram accounts out there. We've mentioned it. Pretty much everybody on our team has their own Instagram account as well, which is, they promote like useful tips, resources, and that all kind of fuses together to form a part of your work experience, because work experience is essentially you having an insight into the life of a dentist and seeing the responsibilities, requirements, and these guys always post stuff relating to dentistry. And if you can gain an insight and make an informed decision that dentistry is your career, is a career that you want to pursue, then definitely that still counts as work experience.
Binny, do you want to talk a little bit about our templates that we have in our book on our website?
Yeah, not a problem. So really, really good question. So how to basically apply for work experience, and Raza said some good points. At the moment, like Raza said, it's probably not ideal to go into a dental setting, try to knock on their door. A better way to do it now would probably be by email or a letter. Most likely emails now because they're picked up a lot quicker. We actually have a template online that'll be free once the website's up and running and with the courses. That basically has it all outlined on there. You just have to fill in the blanks. And I think that's a really, really good template. I've worked as a receptionist for a dentist last year while doing my degree, and you'd get quite a few emails sent in rather than people walking in. And I have to say, emails are probably more preferred, just because it shows a bit more respect. Because you're not going in or trying to intrude. You're just sending an email, and when they're free, they'll get back to you. So I would err on the side of caution now with the stress and the protocols that the dentist are under, and I would send an email.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've had a question from Asma. How do you think COVID will affect the application process apart from work experience? I think that's it's an extremely good question. I wish we had the definitive answer. Guys, what do you think about that?
So there's still a lot of uncertainty around like the whole application process for 2021. One of the things which is in talks currently is about the A levels. Some people are saying they might get pushed back. There's a lot of articles online which you'll find that some university, they're like planning to change the structure of you receiving your results and then applying to university, which is something which is in talks right now. So kind of the education system is being a little bit changed during this pandemic. So I think that's one way the application might change. So they might push the A levels back for 2021, or they might, say that you get your results and then you apply to university. But right now, I don't think there's anything set in stone which has caused a major change to the application process. If anything, your Ucat test will now be online. Should you wish to sit that, and you could sit it from your home. So that's another change. But I think for dental interviews, they might be online, they might not be, but we'll only find out nearer the time. Nothing set in stone yet, but there's constantly changes and developments being made towards the application process.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, which we did, so we could sort of give you some further guidance on that, but I think that's sensible information. Would you recommend we do our Ucat at home or at the test centre? Kanika, very good question. I want to let these guys answer that. So from everyone's experience, obviously it's a new thing that Ucat has been able to be sat at home. So team, what do you think of that?
Yeah, so I'll say my point of view on it. I think it's really, really subjective, Kanika. I don't think there's a one answer sort of fits all in this scenario. For example, we had our university exams online this year. I don't like the format. I felt just weird. I'd rather be in a test setting to do my exam. I feel that I perform better in those environments. So I guess it's very subjective. It depends on you as a person. If you think that you could do it at home, you'd be comfortable, relaxed, you can concentrate, do it at home. If you feel actually there's too many distractions at home, your mind's not in the best state at that moment, then go to a test setting. But yeah, I'd definitely say it's subjective from my point of view.
Personally, I would also say to do it in the test environment, only because, like Binny has said, when you're at home, your mind isn't in that I've got an exam mode. But when you're in that exam environment, you get adrenaline and you're sort of you're a bit more under pressure. So it's subjective, but I would do it in a test centre. I would prefer that my exams are all delayed until September, because at home I feel like that is where I relax, where I spend time with my family, and it's not something where I really do a lot of studying, because I mostly do it at uni. So it's up to you, but if you have got the option to go to a test centre, definitely do it, because everything is just a lot more laid out, and you've just got your computer, your mouse, and yourself. You haven't got any other added distractions, or you haven't got someone like noise. You haven't got other things to worry about, really. So you'd probably more likely to perform better. But again, it's personal. It's a personal choice.
Also, they may, the only major reason I can think of somebody wanting to sit the test at home is if that you're actually quite vulnerable, and you actually are concerned quite a lot, which is why you wouldn't want to risk going to a test center. Although I'm pretty sure all the necessary precautions would be made at the test center. But if you're likely to experience some network problems at home and you're worried about exactly how you're going to set it up, then maybe the test center is a better thing, because you won't face any connection issues there. You wouldn't need to go through the hassle of organizing everything up with their scratch pads online and everything that they have going on. So yeah, a test center does seem like a viable option, but if you rather would prefer to sit at home and you can do it that way, then that's certainly it's more comfortable, if anything.